After 8 weeks of swimming 5 times a week, my Barney swimsuit was flapping around my hips. I ordered a smaller one, this time figuring I'd be Orca, a killer whale, instead of a friendly purple dinosaur. "A new suit," the man from the next lane said, and smiled his approval with teeth that were slightly stained and a bit crooked. "You are shrinking." His accent clipped each of his words precisely. I watched as he shook beads of water from his hair, unselfconsciously rubbing his towel over his arms and down his legs. I nodded and picked up my own towel. "Will you join me for some juice?" he asked. I was so startled I couldn't think of how to tell him no, or that I had somewhere else to be, which would have been a lie. 20 minutes later, I sat at the juice bar with my smoothie, and the silver-haired man from the pool sat across from me. His name was Vijay, he said, and he slid a business card across the table. Vijay Kapoor, MD. "You're a doctor?" "Retired." He rolled his R's. I imagined his tongue curled against the roof of his mouth, trilling lightly. It had been so long since I'd had a conversation like this with someone who wasn't, in some way, paid to talk to me, to take my medical history or my credit information, to give me my prescriptions or my latte or my stamps. "I paint illustrations for greeting cards," I told him. He smiled kindly. "And may I have your name, my dear?" I felt my blush intensify. Addie Downs. We lingered with our drinks as he coaxed the particulars from me. I told him where I lived, a little more about what I did, and how I'd started swimming. "I lost some weight," I said. "I'm just trying to tone up a little." "You look well," he said, making me blush again. "What about you?" I asked. He said that he was 59, which was older than I would have guessed, and he was married, the father of 2 grown sons. He and his wife lived in a big house in Evanston. "It is not a bad life," he said, and looked at his watch, a gold disc that glowed against his burnished skin. "Until next time," he asked, and I agreed, bobbed my head shyly, an oversized schoolgirl in a sweatsuit. We were friends. That was all. He was old enough to be my father, and he was married, so what else could we be? Vijay was always in the pool by the time I arrived, and he'd lift his sleek, dripping head out of the water and raise one hand. "Hello, Addie," he'd call as I waded, as gracefully as I could, into the shallow end and took the lane next to his. At first he was always faster, but eventually I found myself able to keep up with him. Our fingertips would touch the edge of the pool at the same time. We'd raise our heads, inhale, duck back under the water, and start swimming again. Afterward, he'd help me out, extending one square hand, handing me my towel. I'd take my shower, change my clothes, and we'd sit at what I'd come to think of as our table at the juice bar, talking about everything, the election, the weather, a primetime medical drama we were both addicted to, even though he said the technical mistakes they made were cringe-inducing and that the show would be responsible for an influx of idiots into medical school. At night, in bed, I could call up every detail about him. The shape of his bare feet on the pool's tiled deck, the tilt of his head when he asked me a question, the aggressive jut of his nose, his endearingly crooked teeth. I knew I was being silly. He didn't like me as anything more than a friend, a person he saw in the pool, a fellow swimmer he barely recognized as female. Except I knew that wasn't true. My new black suit started bagging around my hips, so I ordered another one. I went for a variation of my comfortable, familiar black tank suit, only I bought it in a color the catalog called bright raspberry, imagining how Vijay's eyes might light up when he saw me, picturing his smile. I wasn't wrong. "Addie," he crooned when he saw me. "How nice." I smiled, did a modest, mocking half-turn before hurrying into the water, tugging my swim cap over my ears. An hour later, we sat across from each other in the juice bar, and, unprompted, he started talking about his wife, whose name, I learned, was Chitra. It had been an arranged marriage in London. Vijay had met her the day before their wedding, and they'd been married for 42 years. "The 2 of us rattle around that house like the last 2 peas in a can," he said. "There's no passion, no connection. We are like roommates, just 2 people living together." Even as I made eye contact and sympathetic noises, I recognized this as a variation of the song that every married man who'd strayed had ever sung to another woman. "My wife doesn't understand me, but oh, you kid." Still, I couldn't keep my heart from lifting. Couldn't ignore the way his touch thrilled me when he pressed his hand on mine, and then, as I held my breath, reached across the table to trace my cheek with one blunt fingertip. "Addie," he murmured, "do you know how lovely you are?"